Hey guys, I figured after all these years it's time to start working on this mini bike. You seen in the last video I got the engine built for it. I wanted to do that first. My favorite thing to do is work on the engine, so I got that part out of the way. And as you can see, this is how this mini bike has always been ever since we've had it, and just never did do nothing with it. I will tell you all a funny story real quick. You remember my little blue Greyhound engine, 6.5 horsepower? When I first got it, I put it on this bike just to see what it would do, and I was trying to just reach down enough to hit the throttle just a little bit above idle to get the clutch to engage. Well, no throttle control except for the manual throttle on the engine, no brakes, no kill switch, nothing. And I reached down and hit full throttle by mistake. My hand slipped or something, so I take off, flying, spinning tires, spinning the back tire, throwing mud everywhere. And anyway, I was trying to reach down to hit the switch on the engine and lost control of it and flipped it. I stood up, spitting dirt out of my mouth and everything. And so after that, I put it away and said, if I ever want to ride it again, I'm going to do it right and actually build it and paint it and everything. So I got all the parts for it. I had to do a few things different. It originally has a brake drum on the back here, but I'm putting a band brake on the clutch. I think that's the old way of doing it, and I'm trying to go the old way on this as much as I can. Right now the forks are just sitting on it. The bushings and the bolt just basically wore plumb out on there, so I got new ones for it. I just got to put them in. But I just set it up there so you can get an idea of what it looks like before. And this ain't gonna be a step by step and everything. I'm going to show as much as I can without boring you. I even got fenders to put on it too. I am gonna keep it red, not this color red though. I got the same color I painted that flywheel in the last video. It's a cherry red. So it all looked pretty good. I'm going to do the fenders and rims in semi-gloss black. And I got a black seat for it. And most of the engine is black, so it's going to be a black and red look on it. I think that might be kind of nice. I kind of got inspired doing it watching the Cars and Cameras on YouTube. Their channel. They did a mini bike. They painted theirs blue and used a 5-horse Briggs on it. Watching their video kind of got me wanting to get going with this thing. So, but yeah, let's just get started on it. I'm going to do all the sanding and painting probably off camera. Not really a whole lot to show, and I don't have a good way of setting the camera up to paint, And if I get a chance, I will show some of it. But yeah, let's get started on it. I want to go ahead and take the wheels and everything off of it, and all the parts that's not going to be painted red. That way I can paint them separately. And I got tubes to put in the tires if these won't hold air. I'll just have to wait and see on that. And if I have trouble with it, I might just put new tires on it too. They don't cost much for these. So. I bought most of my parts from MFG Supply. And a lot of the other stuff came off eBay. I think it'll turn out pretty good. Be a lot better than what it is right now. And I do still have the original engine off of it. I showed it in some of the other videos. The cylinders all scored up in it and everything. And it was the first engine I ever started working with on my own, so that's what got me started on small engine repairs, a little 5-horse Briggs. So, well, let's get started too. I'll show you again after I get everything apart. I'm just taking the bolts out of the front and rear axle here. I got to check the bearings in them, see if they're any good, and go from there. So let's look at it here in a second. Alrighty, so I did a couple little things here off camera to speed things up on the video. Get the rear fender mounted, not exactly the way I had planned, but I think it'll work. And remember, the fender's going to be painted black, the frame red. I put a kickstand on it. I had to cut it already had this piece on it, so I had to cut the part out that hooks on the spring here. Just put it right there like that. And I'll put a cotter pin on this, probably a washer too on the top to space that up a little bit. I'm going to get a little better weld on it, just kind of tacked it on there real quick. But it'll work. And on the front, the fender's a little higher than I thought it would be. But again, I'm not too worried about it, considering I didn't even have them in the first place. I did basically the same thing here. Like I said, I'm not going for a top-notch restoration on this. I'm just wanting to fix it up. So, and I set the engine on here temporarily, and the sprockets don't line up. Then I got looking and seen these two plates here. Apparently it's supposed to have a jack shaft here, a short chain running to it, then running to that. So that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to get me a jack shaft for it and go from there before I can mount the engine. So now the only thing left to do is sand and paint. Check these tires, see if they're going to hold out. I got a little bit of air in it, it seems like. So I want to take the fenders back off when I paint. I'm just trying to get everything worked out before I paint it so I don't have to worry about scratching it up. So I can just put it together when I get ready to do it. I got a 10-inch jack shaft, 5/8, number 35 chain. And this is just a mock-up. The engine's not bolted, the chain's not tight. It's just a little piece there. And I got a big 10-foot link over here. I'm just trying to get an idea how I'm going to do this. The original one probably had like a pillow block bearing or something that bolted to these two plates here. But the kit I bought came with these like washer-like bearing retainers. So it's just the only way I'm going to be able to do it. I mean, it'll work. It's not going to look quite as good. I was wanting to make it bolt on, but I'm debating about welding like two pieces onto this and bolting it, or just, you know, welding both sides of this right onto this bracket. I was going to flip the tire around, put the sprocket on this side, but I got looking at it since I went with the factory style carburetor and gas tank. You know, your chain, it would clear the gas tank no problem, but if that chain came loose, it'd probably go right through that gas tank. And much of these gas tanks cost, and as good a shape as this one's in, I hate to lose a tank over something that I can just do like this. And you know, I still got plenty of gap in between the chains, and everything's lined up, you know, pretty close, really, as you can see. So I don't think that'll be an issue. And these sprockets might be switched around. Right now it'd be set up for more top end speed. If I put the big sprocket over here being driven off the clutch, it'll give me more bottom end and I'll lose top end speed, which I'm mainly going to be riding around in grass, so it might be better for what I'm going to be doing. But I can always switch it back around. Maybe have two sets of chains made up for it. That way I can just swap it out if I want to see how the top end does. But yeah, I just want to show you the mock-up here. And it's about what it's going to be. So now I just got to decide if this is how I'm going to do that, or I guess the only other option would be to cut this bracket off, but then I think the chain will be too low. And you can see where it's dug in there before, so that's probably the reason for that. So I think this might actually be the best way to do it. Get both of them lined up over here on the edge, like that. That way I know everything will be as close as I can get it to square. Probably not perfect, but there's a little bit of slop in the bearing plate and on the center part of the race here where the shaft goes in it, so I'd have, you know, just a little bit of play there. Alright, so I made a little jig here to help keep everything square, that way I can get it tacked in two spots from both sides, and I can take all this out and weld it. It looks kind of weird like that without nothing on it yet. Alright, so after I got the jack shaft bearing plates welded, I figured I'd better check the bearings out on the wheels, and probably a good thing I did. They were pretty dry. One of them completely disintegrated, taking it out. This one is locked up. This was out of the front wheel. This one's had better days too. But luckily for me, they're the same bearing that came with the jack shaft. So I got the number off this. Alright guys, fast forward a couple weeks. Get the paint dried, and it's not perfect. The bike was pitted so bad it should have been sandblasted and, you know, done all that, you know, but I just didn't have the time to do it, and it's 100% better than it was, so I'm not going for show car quality. I'm just trying to get it done, but I think it'll be alright. Get the rims painted black, got new wheel bearings put in them, packed them in grease. So now I'm ready to start putting the fenders on. I'm just going to do this off camera because you've seen how they're bolted on. We're going to look at it when I get back on there, and might go ahead and put the wheels on. I'll probably get some spacers and put in here eventually just to make it look a little bit better than that, but for right now that'll work. Alright, so I got the wheels on there. So I got the new wheel bearings in there, and I packed them in grease. And I got the new bolt and new bushings in this. And the rear wheel. Had to kind of space it out on both sides. Done scratched the fender here on the workbench. I figured it'd be a good time to mount the seat, so I went ahead and did that. Just put two wood screws in it, like a sheet metal screw going into the wood. Should be good enough. May change this seat out later. I don't know if I'm going to like this going up this high like this, but it'll work for right now. Now on to the pegs, kickstand, and jackshaft. Alright, so let me bring you up to date here. I got both chains made here. This back chain's a little tighter than I would like it. This one just about right, but I can adjust this front one. And the motor's mounted. Here you can see I got the bolts in it. I started working on the brake here. I'm using the old type clutch band brake. I'm not sure if I got this exactly right. I gotta check it out more, make sure everything is working. It's got a cover. It's going to go on here like that. May paint this black later on. Might leave it like this for right now. I'm not sure yet. The brake cable was way too long, so I kind of had to just wrap it around a little bit. And I already put the brake on there and the grip. I ain't put the throttle on yet. And it appears to be working. I gotta wait till I can drive it some. Might have to adjust that some. But for right now, it's got at least a little bit of brake. So now I'm going to get ready to hook the throttle cable up. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it on the carburetor yet. We'll look at that here in a minute. Alright, so I got it done. As you can see, we done took it for a little test drive to make sure everything's going to work. And my throttle, I'm having a little bit of a problem with it. It wants to just stay wherever you put it. I don't think I got a strong enough spring. There may be supposed to be a spring in here it's missing or something, so I got to figure that out later. But I got the kill switch mounted here, and I got the cover on here. The way I got it geared right now is for low end, more for like acceleration. I just used the app on my phone. It's getting 26 miles an hour top speed right now with this setup right here. So if I switch these two sprockets around, make a new back chain, I should probably get another probably 8 miles or so out of it, I would think. But might do that later on. Won't be in this video. But now what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to mount my old camera somewhere on the bike here and make a video riding it and put in here. Alright, so I got my old camera zip tied here. We'll switch to that video here in a second. I don't know what kind of a view you're going to have here. I just wanted to do something on there. Alright, so after just getting 27 miles an hour out of this setup, I figured I'd change it around. I'll change these sprockets around. I have to make a new chain for the back. Should be able to reuse the front chain because I still got quite a bit of adjustment here. So let me get back to you here in just a second. Alright, so I got it switched around here. Now we're going to see what happens this time. Alright, so after switching the sprockets around, I was able to get 36 miles an hour out of it. But there was absolutely no bottom end at all. It had the top end speed. You could really feel the power band of the engine kicking in, probably around 15 or 20 miles an hour. But there's just no takeoff speed at all. So I ended up switching it back, and I didn't make a video of it running with the other setup. I just didn't see much point in it. And you see I put in some before and after pictures, and also remember to take a picture of the plug on the carburetor. That was somebody asked me about how I end up plugging the port on the carburetor. So you'll see that here in a second. But it turned out pretty good, and like I said, it's not a a full-on showroom restoration of it, but it's a lot better than it was, and now it's actually usable, and the motor seems to be running pretty good, and the rings seem to be seating in pretty good. It's just smokes a little bit when you first start it, but other than that, it's doing real good. But it's hard to start because this type of carburetor has to run lean on the high side, so it makes the low end run even leaner. So that's why a lot of people don't use these carburetors anymore on these engines. But I think it turned out pretty good. So if y'all got any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.